So, should you play blindside flanker or openside flanker? My name's Hassan and I've made videos on YouTube to help rugby players improve in their skill set and ultimately play at a higher level. And I wanted to make this video today because a few days ago I made a video about the two different types of props, a loose head prop and a tight head prop, and I basically went through explaining the differences in terms of the roles that these players have on the pitch and some of the key differences that people tend to not realise between the two positions. Now, through making that video, I ended off by kind of suggesting which position may be suited more for you, and that video did really well. So I thought, you know what, why don't I make another video for flankers, because obviously there's two flankers on the pitch, but they both have two different roles, and I thought if that first video that I made helped people out, then maybe this one will help as well. So with that being said, guys, let's get into it. So I'm going to talk about a few different things that I want to make you guys aware of when it comes to flankers, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a good idea of which position is more suited to yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about is the body type and the physique you have as a player. Now for the blind side, so the number 6, you're going to more often than not be, you know, the taller, heavier out of the two flankers. Now your job is going to more primarily be to, you know, be more engaging in the line out, so being a line out lifting option, so having that extra height is going to be beneficial for that. But you're also going to be needed to, you know, be more of an enforcer on the pitch, you know, in those rooks and mauls, so having a bit more weight on your frame is going to be a lot more useful for that job. But then if we look at the open side flanker, also known as number 7, you're going to be a bit smaller than the blindside flanker most typically, and a little bit shorter as well. This is because more often than not you're going to be requiring a lower center of gravity, so you can get involved in things such as jackling, where you're looking to steal the ball, and getting into those low strong body positions are really important. But the fact that you're also a bit smaller and a bit lighter means you should be a bit faster, so you're going to be able to get around the park quicker and get involved in more phases of the game. Now the concept between the two positions and their jobs is a little bit different. So for the blindside flanker, your job is all about being physical. You know, you want to make big dominant tackles all across the park. You want to have a really intimidating presence as well, and you want to make sure that, you know, you're able to constantly knock the opposition backwards, whether that's through tackles, whether that's through clearing out in the rooks or driving forward in the mauls. You want to be a really physical dominant presence on the pitch, and you want to make sure that you're really enforcing, you know, your team's possession when you have the ball in hand. You want to make sure that, you know, you're really clearing out any threats that are apparent in the rooks. You want to make sure you get in there quickly, and, you know, just making sure that you're sealing off that ball and making the lives of your scrum half a lot easier. And then if we look at open side flanker, your job is possession. You know, you're quite often referred to as, like, you know, the thief, and you're always involved in jackals, trying to steal that ball back, whether, you know, you're making a tackle like in open play, you're able to get up quickly and steal the ball back. A lot often as well, you know, you're really involved in ripping the ball out of the opposition's hands within a maul, and you just want to be very much so involved in winning that ball back for your team. And that comes with being lighter, getting around the park quicker, and really, you know, having that mindset of wanting to win the ball back in like 2 or 3 phases. Now let's talk about the next key thing, and that's the side of the scrum which you're on. So obviously the blindside flanker is going to be on the left hand side of the scrum behind the loose head prop, and your job is to cover the blind side, hence the name. Now the blind side is obviously the side with less players and less space, so you want to make sure that you're able to, you know, guard that space in case if the number 8 picks and goes, or if the number 9 chooses to pass the ball that way. You're going to be able to quickly detach yourself from the scrum, and you're going to be able to, you know, make a nice clean dominant hit and make sure that, you know, your defensive line isn't going to be threatened. But on the other hand, you have the number 7, who is on the open side. Now open side just refers to the field of play where there's a lot more space for, you know, rugby to be played. So your job is going to be to, you know, detach from the scrum a lot quicker, and more likely than not you're going to be instantly leaving the scrum and chasing the ball, looking to, you know, hunt down whoever has the ball in their hands with a nice dominant tackle. And then making sure as well just that you have a lot of discipline within these scrums. You know, you don't want to be leaving the scrum too early to the point where, you know, the scrum's still pushing and the ball's not out, but you also want to be getting out there really quickly and making sure, you know, you're on your feet ready for the next phase of play, whether that's in attack or in defense. You want to make sure that your channels respectively are guarded and there's no threats from your opposition when you're defending, and you want to make sure that you can become an attacking option as well when your team has the ball in play. Next, it's just talk about lineouts as well. Obviously, being a flanker and being a tall flanker, it could be a number 6 or a number 7, and you can be involved in lineouts. There's no set rule, but if you are naturally a bit taller, definitely look to practice your lineout jumping. Look to, you know, learn all the calls, practice your jumping timing, so you know you're very fluent, and you know you can start to play with the second rows in that lineout and make it a lot more difficult for the opposition to read what your team's trying to do within those lineouts. It's gonna not only give your team more options, but it's going to give you a higher chance of securing that ball and ultimately being able to, you know, make use of that set piece, and hopefully you guys can score more tries from this. So it's a really useful thing to have. As well as that, you're also going to be able to, you know, have another option in terms of when you're trying to defend in a line out. You know, if you have 3 jumpers compared to 2, you know, you can cover a lot more distance within that 15-meter channel, and you know, hopefully you guys can be a lot more dominant within lineouts, and you know, you can be more of a threat and more of a nuisance as well. I think it's really important that, you know, if you're not involved in the lineouts, you're also there. If you want to be, you know, like a hard line runner, you know, you're there as an option on outside the lineout. But if you are not a lifter, if you're not a jumper, but you are, for example, standing at the back of the line out, you've got to be ready to, you know, get engaged in those mauls that could come from a line out. So, you know, just be aware of what's going on, make sure you're reading the game and, you know, really taking note of what's happening. And I think the last thing as well that I want to talk about is just kind of the mindset you have as a player. The blindside flanker is very much the more dominant one, who loves the collision. You know, you love your big tackles, you love running into contact, carrying the ball nice and strong. So if this is more kind of the player that you are, and this kind of resonates more with you and the kind of things you look for when you step onto the rugby field, definitely consider being a blindside flanker or playing number 6. Especially if you're a bit taller, you know, you can start getting involved in the lineouts as well, and you can become a really good utility player for your team. On the other hand, if you're someone who more so enjoys the chaos, you love getting involved in all the nitty gritty work, you know, those jackals, those rooks, really getting involved there and getting in the opposition's face by being a nuisance and, you know, winning the ball back and being a real penalty machine for your team, maybe Openside flanker is more suited to yourself, and playing number 7 might just be the position on the rugby field which is best for you. I think either way, it's really important to practice your key skills as a forward ultimately, because they're what are going to carry you and be the core component of your game, whether you do decide to be an open side or a blindside flanker. So with that being said, guys, that is my few points trying to explain both of those positions to you. I hope you've gathered some new insights and, you know, you've understood and you've learned a little bit about each position and what their jobs entail. If you found it useful, please leave this video a thumbs up, as I'd really appreciate it, and it lets me know that, you know, I've done a decent job. And with that being said, guys, just make sure that you subscribe to the channel, continue supporting the channel. I'm really grateful for it, and I'm going to keep continuing to push out content for you guys. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I want to thank you.